Hi, I'm Peter Fuggle. I'm Clinical Director here at the Aneuploid National Centre for Children and Families, and I've been a clinical psychologist for many years, always working with children and families. I'm here to talk about anxiety and anxiety in children and young people. Now, just the first thing to say about anxiety is it's a feeling of being nervous, frightened, scared, those kind of feelings, and they're completely normal. All children at any point, they're going to have experiences where they feel a bit anxious. And it doesn't matter what adults do, we're never going to eliminate anxiety from childhood. That's part of what happens as you grow up. But what we're concerned about is children who feel anxiety a lot of the time, who feel anxiety when there isn't actually very much to be anxious about, where they just worry all the time about a school test or standing up in front of the class or what their friends think of them, or that they're going to mess up in the football game next week and they worry about it for days before, rather than just get a bit anxious just before the game, and in the way that many children and young people might do. So the concern is with children who worry a lot and who feel anxious. Now, the thing about this is that anxiety problems, and that would be what we would call that, are very common. Now, the most common referral to child mental health services is around anxiety. So that it's in any school, in any class, they're going to be children who experience high levels of anxiety. Now, the important thing about this is that children who experience anxiety don't find it easy to tell other people that they're feeling anxious. It's not a big surprise, but they don't come up and tell the teacher, I've got this thing called anxiety. They don't. Because they feel anxious, that doesn't make it easy for them. But they also don't like being anxious. They don't like it. They can feel ashamed, or they feel they're going to be criticised, or all sorts of things. So the teachers have to be a little bit they have to notice anxiety by what children do. And the most obvious things that children do when they're anxious is they avoid things. They may be a bit on their own, or they may try and avoid activities in school, or they may be on their own in the playground, those kind of things. So teachers need to notice if a child is anxious, and then and ask them how they're feeling. These are the sort of starting points. There are different sorts of anxiety. There's social anxiety and phobias and all sorts of things. I don't think that's all that crucial for teachers. I think the important thing is that teachers notice just general anxiety in their pupils, and that what they need to then do is just do one or two things to be helpful to those children. Okay, so here's just one or two suggestions, and they're important for teachers. The first thing is that children who are anxious are often very frightened that they're going to be criticised or humiliated, or generally that adults will somehow make fun of them, or I don't know about make fun of them, but they're worried what the reaction of adults would be if they tell them about how they're feeling. So the first thing for a teacher to do if their child tells them that they're worried or frightened about things is to be accepting, to really try and help a child feel accepted for how they're feeling, rather than immediately try and solve it or change it or try and get rid of it or all that sort of thing. To try to convey that it's understandable that children feel like this sometimes, but they'd like to help them to feel a bit better. So the accepting is the first thing, and the second, I suppose, is this thing that teachers are really brilliant at anyway, which is essentially encouragement. How do you encourage a child who feels worried or anxious about things to try things so that they discover that maybe they don't need to be so worried about things as they think? There are lots of therapies that for children to help them with their anxieties, but a lot of them end up with being this process of encouragement. How do you help a child to not avoid things that they're worried about? So teachers do this all the time. That's their skill. So they don't have to do something they've never done before, but they just need to be confident about encouraging anxious children to try things that they're a bit nervous about. That's a completely appropriate response. Of course, the tricky bit is just how to encourage them so that you encourage them enough. You're not asking them to do things that they feel are impossible, but teachers are pretty good at gauging that. And the third thing that teachers should do if they think a child's quite anxious about lots of things is chat to parents. Because anxious children in school will be anxious at home, and actually maybe the teachers and parents together will come up with some better ideas about how to help children who feel very worried and anxious about things that they have to do from day to day. So talking to parents is also a very useful approach for teachers if they're concerned about a child being anxious about things. For more information about helping children with anxiety, we recommend you join the Schools in Mind network, which can be found on the Anna Freud Centre website.